Hello and welcome to I put everyone on screen by accident. I knew I was going to press the wrong button. Welcome to the first episode of the Maximum Impact Marketers Show. So this is going to be a monthly show where I interview specialists in digital marketing. So people that really know their stuff around a specific topic. And I have the best guests to start with, like totally the best. I'm so excited to have them because this is a topic that I know so many of you have been thinking about in the last year, influencer marketing. So let me introduce, how do I get them back on screen again? Like that. Hey, welcome to Caitlin. That's Caitlin in the middle and Amy from Simply Social Media. And you're in New Mexico?
We are.
Santa Fe.
New Mexico.
They're in New Mexico and they are specialists in influencer marketing. I know some people have sent me questions in advance and I have some questions to ask them. So firstly, just tell me a little bit about what you do. Caitlin, do you want to go first?
Sure. So Amy and we own a social media and influencer marketing agency. So we teach businesses how to navigate the social media world, and also if they're interested in working with influencers, how to find them, what's the right way to work with them, what are all the things that you should know. And we absolutely love it.
And you're so good at it as well. And it's great to have you on for exactly that thing. How do we find influencers to work with online? And I can just see that Lee has joined us, Lee from Well Shot, saying it's my first YouTube only live. Now, my computer is struggling, just to say, so I'm seeing a little bit of a delay. I know you guys were seeing a little bit of delay earlier. I don't know if anyone else is, but bear with us. Just let me know if you can't hear. That's a really important thing. So let's start with Amy. I didn't get you to introduce yourself either.
Oh, well, hi. I'm the other half of Simply Social Media, along with Caitlin. And we just absolutely love to talk about influencer marketing. We're very excited to be here and share our love of micro influencers, a very important distinction between micros and macros or megas.
Okay, let's start with that, because actually a question I had for later on. Oh, I lost Amy's sound. A question I had for later on was about influencers, and a question that we had from Val in my Facebook group was, how do you deal with negativity against certain influencers? And I think this is something that we see with a lot of the big influencers. We see sometimes, they might do something wrong and they get attacked online. So they are big influencers. They're, what would you call them? Giant influencers? What size of an influencer are they?
Mega or celebrity with over the hundreds of thousands of followers and up into the millions.
Okay, so I'm just going to close this window, see if that helps the sound delay. So we want to avoid those. We're not really talking about those because you have to pay loads of money to get into their feed. So who are we talking about?
We're talking about micro and even nano influencers. So those are people with anywhere from, zero, not really, but, 500 to 10,000 follower range typically is the sort of average range. I mean, if you Google it, you're going to get all kinds of answers about the exact definitions. The most important distinction for us in that range is that they are people who have very close relationships with their followers. And so they have a real trust-based situation going. There's a real peer-to-peer type of relationship happening with their followers.
So that's one of the things, I suppose my next question was going to be, like, how do you know if people are influential? So it's that relationship they have with their followers. Is that what you're looking for? And how do you identify that?
Absolutely. It's easier to spot the ones that don't have that authentic relationship with their followers, because when they are in their captions, they're explaining either their experience with a product or a situation or something personal about themselves. And then the comments are all, "You're so pretty. I love this. like just not have anything to do with the caption. It's all just vapid, surface level comments.
Okay, so that's interesting because very often we'd go, right, how many likes are they getting on a post? How many comments are they getting? But actually looking at the comments and identifying not just beyond those comments, the comments that I hate on Instagram the most are those ones. that emoji. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So that would be my first signal that they weren't good comments. But you're saying beyond that, yes, you're looking so pretty. Where did you get that necklace? Or I don't know. That's kind of fake.
Yeah, I would just add that we're really looking for the quality of the conversation. We want conversation to be happening in their comment section. And we want it to be happening about the content of the post itself, what they're writing in the caption. It's nice when they comment on the photo itself. If it's a person, like Caitlin said, you're so pretty, but really we want them to be having a conversation about whatever it is that they're talking about. So when you work with them to promote your product or service or experience, that the conversation happening in the comments is about your product, service, or experience.
Okay, so that makes sense, but it also sounds like a lot of work. So
it is. Yeah.
So just to say, Catherine, said hello to Catherine and to Barbara. Barbara's watching is Well Expo, and hello to Catherine, who I think, because I switched one of my windows off, we're back in sync. So thanks for letting us know. So that brings me on to the next question, which is, where do you even start? So that sounds like, to me, I'm going, oh, sounds so complicated. How do I even begin to find these influencers? And I'm thinking, just to give you a perspective of where we are in Ireland, we've got a population of around 4 million people, which I'm imagining is, you may have more people than that in New Mexico. So, micro is good for us. Everyone's a micro influencer in Ireland. So how do we even start to pick from those? How do we even find those people in the first place?
Yeah, so a lot of brands might actually have influencers working to promote their business, brand, product already, which is really great. So if you have a brick and mortar, if you have a business that has a location or a product already, the first place to look is online to see the people that are already tagging you in pictures, the people that are using your hashtag, the people that are mentioning you in their comments and their posts, things like that. That's a great place for you to start to see who's already kind of shouting your praises and communicating with them. Start by developing a relationship with these influencers. Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me a shout out, or I'm glad that you had a great experience. All sorts of things like that.
Okay, so that's good if that's happening. Mm-hmm. So that's
right.
obviously that's, if that's not happening, what's the next stage after that?
So next, and just to give a little bit of context, we are coming at this mostly through Instagram. Caitlin and I met on Instagram, and that is our favorite platform, and one that is highly used by influencers. But a lot of these ideas can work across platforms. We go to geotags. We go to hashtags. We look at who our influencers are following and who is following them. We look in the comments section of people who are having conversations, and we go and we look at their profiles. And so it's definitely, it's the rabbit hole effect, really, of it's detective work. You are doing online detecting to find people who you're looking for. And you can look at niche hashtags, you can look at industry related hashtags, location hashtags. There's so many ways to find them, but you do have to be willing to put in the time to do that. I mean, it's not a silver bullet. Nothing is a silver bullet marketing strategy, right? It's really all about taking the time and really trying to honestly develop relationships with people.
So yeah, that was the first thing that occurred to me when you started talking about all that work. But obviously there's benefits to this because, well, I'm going to let you tell me what the benefits of influencer marketing are. If I'm going to go and spend a few hours a day for a week, maybe, that's probably enough. I'm thinking just find one or two influencers. If I'm going to spend that time to find exactly the right influencers, what's the benefit of that? Surely I could just go and run a Facebook ad.
You could. But developing a relationship with somebody is like, you can talk about the benefits that you offer, that you bring to the table as much as you want to. But when somebody else shares that their experience with your product, they're putting their endorsement on it. They're saying, yes, I did this and this is my experience and it was hopefully great. It's because people trust people more than they trust brands. And so you've got people kind of being your cheerleaders when you're working with people who tell stories online and hopefully tell good things about your brand and your product.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And I do
Yeah,
totally
think
get
of
it.
it.
Go on.
It's like a Google review with content that is actually directed towards an established audience. So most nano and micro influencers have a very trusted relationship with their audience. So if Caitlin is telling me about a new taco place in town, I am definitely way more likely to go try that place because I know Caitlin has really good taste in tacos. It's just that trusted peer-to-peer relationship. So it's like this Google review, hopped up. And then you also have access to that user-generated content. So not only is the influencer sharing about your content, then you can share their content on your social platforms as well. So we all know what a grind it is to constantly be creating content. Here you have people who are creating it for you. I think one of the things people get really, influencers can have a bad connotation for some of the reasons we talked about earlier, but we really like to think of them as creators. So you are working with people who are content creators. Which, if you reframe it in that way, might make working with influencers a little less scary.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think as well, when you're thinking about the micro influencers, that it's not like your celebrities like Kim Kardashian. I think that's what scares a lot of people off. How on earth am I going to get in touch with her? Which brings me into a question we have from Yamashoft. I think that's how I say it. How do you reach an influencer and how do you deal with them? So you've identified the people that you want to. So what's the next step? How do I get in touch with them? Is it just a direct message? If it is, how do I frame that? Or is there another method?
We definitely recommend establishing a relationship with that influencer first. Chances are, if they're doing a good job promoting things online, they're getting tons of messages, mostly the spam ones of DM us to collab, and you don't want to be lumped in with those spammy type comments. And so actually conversing with the person, reading their comments, their captions, commenting something that has to do with their caption, really getting to know them. And then once you've done that for even just a couple of weeks, it's totally fine. You don't have to spend years doing this necessarily. Kind of sending them a message and saying, hey, this is what I'm interested in doing. Maybe asking them, like, how does your relationship with brands work? Here's what I have to offer. What would you like to do in exchange? Or are there fees associated with it? Kind of being candid and having that conversation to work things out.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like just good social media marketing anyway. It always astounds me how many emails I get from people asking me to guest blog. I don't take guest blogs, just if anyone's thinking of it. And they have never tweeted me or sent me or replied to an Instagram post or followed my Facebook page. And if they had, there's a good chance I wouldn't delete their email as soon as I got it. So I think that's just really good social media marketing in general.
You think of it like a cold call, right? You're not going to just go knock on someone's door who you've never met before. So you really warm them up, and it's relationship building. So the more genuine and authentic you can be about connecting with these people, the more receptive they're going to be when you slide into their DMs. Also, a lot of creator accounts will have ways to contact. So you can, there may be an email contact there, or some influencers will even say in their bio how they like to be contacted. So it really just depends. But the overriding, just like Caitlin said, it's all about establishing that relationship and really having that connection with them before you launch into your pitch.
Okay. And sorry, the sun came in. I don't know if you saw that and distracted me. So now that you've made your pitch, what can you expect from them? Is it just going to be, what should you expect? What should you be paying? Should you not be paying? What will they do for you? What sort of statistics should you be looking for? It's always that thing of, yeah, look, this influencer's got in touch with me, or I've got in touch with them. They want to work with me. And I think everyone's expectations are different. So how do we go with that?
It does depend on what you have to offer. Not everybody has money in order to pay an influencer, although that is a really great place to start. If you have a product or experience, you can offer them a trade, some sort of trade. Say, hey, this is what I have. It's valued at this. Is this something that you're interested? Would you be willing to do, say, like 1 post and 3 stories, or kind of working out that negotiation with what you would like them to do as far as what they're willing to do. Some are going to say, this is not going to resonate with my audience, so I think there's either a higher fee associated with it, or maybe this is not a good fit and you should be working with other influencers. But yeah, it's a conversation, because some will say, I work for money, and trade is not enough. So it's really kind of seeing who you are working with and what they're willing to do for it.
Okay, and then from that point of view, what should we be looking at to measure the results of that? Or what should we be getting from them so that we know what sort of results we should expect?
Sure. Well, speaking specifically towards Instagram and Facebook, and I think even TikTok may have this now, but there are branded content partner tools that you can actually enable. So influencers can tag their posts as a branded content partner, and that actually gives you access to the back end of their posts. So you can see their analytics. You can see how many people were reached, how many impressions were made. You can see the engagement in terms of likes, comments, shares, saves, all of that good stuff. So you can really get the analytics from the back end if you use those branded content partner tools. And they're really pretty simple to use. The other ROI, and honestly, in our opinion, the most important, is really the quality of the conversation. We are really looking for those comments, because that is what's going to drive people to potentially take action. And it's like any other kind of marketing. You can't have an influencer do a post about your brand the first time around and expect an immediate conversion to sales. You have to start at the top of your funnel, just like any other kind of marketing strategy. So, going in with a very clear expectation for your return on investment is an important part of working with micro influencers. Don't expect the moon from them. Don't just say, okay, you're going to do this and now I'm going to get hundreds of sales. You also have to put your work into it. So here you are exposed to a new audience. Now is the time to go onto that influencer's post and start having conversations with the people who are commenting there. It's definitely not a one-way street. You need to take advantage at every angle that you can.
Okay, and that's something I hadn't thought of, all the work that you have to do. And that I'm not going, oh, we have to do all this work. I'm just thinking, that's an obvious thing, but it's obviously something that a lot of people would miss, that those conversations, obviously, they're talking about your product already. And it's like Caitlin said at the beginning, who are your fans already? These are your potential new fans. So would you be looking for things like followers? Would that be a good thing to start with, or...
Yeah, yes, but it's not really, it's if somebody has a lot of followers, they're doing something right. So most of the time, if they're either going out and trying to build their own community, or people are gravitating towards them because they're good at what they do. But more than the number of followers that they have are the conversations that are having. So
I was actually thinking more, sorry, I wasn't clear with my question. I was thinking more about me getting followers. If I work with an influencer, is that something I could expect? Because we know how hard it is for businesses to get followers on Instagram. Is this a shortcut to that?
It depends on what your ask is in your relationship with that influencer about bringing followers to your channel, of saying, so it depends, like if you have products to give away, one of the asks could be, hey, in order to win this, you have to follow this account, and that's a way for them to bring followers over to your channel as well. If them simply mentioning your brand is not necessarily going to bring a lot of people to your to follow you right away, unless you're doing a really good job and they're immediately like, oh, this is somebody that I would follow naturally, this seems like a good fit, I'm going to start following them.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense. Just a couple of comments coming in here. Yamashoft has a question, which is, what do you think about, can we pay the influencers a percentage or pay them one time up front? So I guess when it comes to the transaction, you've agreed what they're going to do, you've agreed the price. Do you pay it all up front and just hope that they do what they're going to say, or do you do 50-50, or how does that split work? I think I'm interpreting Yamashov's question right.
So first of all, I would say that you should consider having a contract, having an influencer agreement in place before you even start working with an influencer, because you don't want to just like hope that this thing happens, right? And also the contract protects the influencers as well. So our contracts include information, clauses that give the influencers full creative freedom. That's something that we have found is very important. In America, there are some guidelines. Our Federal Trade Commission has disclosure information that influencers do have to provide. But other than that, we really give our influencers full creative freedom, and that is very implicit in our contract. But it also establishes what we're asking of them and what they get in return for that. And so there's a contract right away. So you definitely want to consider implementing contracts in the process. And there's all kinds of different ways to pay them. It could be a one-time fee. Also, there are, referral codes. So there are some people who work as brand ambassadors. And if you give them a referral code, they may get a percentage of the sales that they bring in. So it really just depends on, your product, your service, your experience, and how you want to set that structure up. What we think is so great about this particular type of marketing is that you get to do it how it works for you. And so there's no one way only to do this.
Okay, so the contract's the most important thing, because you don't want to get into one of those things, well, you post it, then I'll pay you. Well, but you pay me, then I'll post it. Obviously, having that written contract. And I'm sure, obviously, it's better to go to a solicitor and get something official drawn up. But if not, I'm sure there's templates online that you can follow through with that people could use.
Yeah, it really just simple. It doesn't need to be overly complex. And we actually try to steer away from using a lot of legal language, just because we're influencers ourselves, and we don't want to get a contract that we don't even understand. So we try to keep it very simple, just laying out we will provide you with this, and you will do this in return. And so it can be very simple.
That's good to know. That's good to know. One less complicated thing for us to do. An important point, I think, from Barbara here is it's important for them to meet your values. And we were actually, pre-show, we were actually discussing this, like, what if you start working with an influencer and they do something that is against your brand values? So we were talking about the example, I think it was PewDiePie and Disney were working together at one point, and he had a bit of a controversial video. So if something like that happens, what do you do as a business?
I would stop working with that influencer. you guys had a relationship together, maybe put something out saying, or like re-emphasizing your own values, but not necessarily calling attention to it, but saying like, this is something that we value. This is what our brand represents. And we stand by that and feel very strongly about it. It's also, it's a good, and this is something that's happened to us before, is this is why research kind of has a lot of importance in this, finding the right influencers, not just taking a look at their posts, but their stories and following them for a while, just so, because little red flags might pop up there and you have to be paying attention to notice, like, oh, you are actually crazy. Or like,
yes,
you don't figure out this thing. So doing your research really is important.
So yeah, the groundwork sounds like, even though that is the biggest part of the job, right, what we've been discussing, obviously the most important part of the job as well.
And when you put that time into it up front, it can really pay off in the end by vetting them very carefully, like Caitlin said.
One thing that occurred to me, and I know in Ireland it's really hard to find people in Ireland about a specific topic, which just sounds a little bit bizarre, but I'm just thinking, away from makeup and hair, which we can find hundreds of influencers in Ireland, you can do a bit of hashtag research, but generally you just find other businesses, maybe your competitors, using the hashtags that you want to. And I know a couple of brands that I work with have come across this when they've just been trying to find people to follow or engage with. This is a really difficult question. Is there a way around that? So if you were just trying to target people in, say, Santa Fe, because that's in New Mexico, right? I'm remembering, right? If you're just trying to target people there, and maybe they were, okay, geolocating you mentioned, is there something else we could do as well, just to make sure that we were getting really into the right niche of people?
Yeah, the savvy influencers are using hashtags to their benefit. They're using a location plus a subject in the hashtag. So Santa Fe influencer, or a little bit broader, New Mexico influencer. Or even if they've got a niche, right? So Santa Fe fitness influencer. That seems a little long, but hey, it's worth checking out to see if somebody is kind of saying, hey, I'm here. This is what I do. This is what I love talking about. I'm the person to talk to if you're looking for influencers on this subject.
Okay, that seems like it should be easy to do. It should be.
Not everybody's
they're not. But I also think that a lot of nano and micro influencers don't necessarily have a super locked down niche. And so they can talk about a wide range of things. I mean, I'm thinking particularly of Caitlin and myself. Our personal Instagram are much more about our own lifestyle and our own lives. And so we can actually talk about a wide range of things. We can go to the spa and have an experience. We can go to a local restaurant and have an experience. So, you don't always have to only just be looking for those super locked down niche influencers.
I know we've got a question here that is totally up your street, because when we talked before on a podcast, Yamshoft again, can we work with multiple influencers in the beginning for one product, or just one, evaluate the response from there and expand to working with more than one? So I'm thinking that's a bit like what you do with hotels. When I don't know what the hotel situation is there at the moment. Let's not talk about lockdown, but when things are normal, that's kind of what you do with hotels. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we definitely recommend starting with, if you have the capacity to work with a bunch. It's kind of like trial and error, right? To see, you'll never really know where the best route to take is unless you try it, and trying it once and seeing it is not always the best method. And so having a couple, like 3 to 5, is a really great place to start, and then say, oh, this worked really well. I'd like to do this route the next time that I work with influencers, or try to shift the relationship that we have over here, try to make it a little bit more like that one. Kind of see what's working the best and shifting based on that.
So and also this is what I love about what you do, is the big splash. So obviously, If you do a big splash, once you've got used to it, right, this is probably not the first thing you should do. I'm thinking you learn all the tips that you've given us. You learn how you're working with influencers, but getting a whole load of influencers at once to talk about what you're doing, that's better, right? Is it?
Yeah, yes. So we specialize in what are called Instameets. And we've sort of transitioned that during this pandemic time into online blitzes, but it's the same concept of bringing people together around a singular experience, product, service, and they all experience it and then they all post about it at the same time. So one, you're taking advantage of the micro influencers who have those really meaningful, trusted conversations. But then if they're all posting at the same time, you can take advantage of creating a lot of reach, which is what those mega influencers offer. I mean, we're not, not hundreds of millions in reach, but still a very significant amount for your local or regional area. So it's really kind of the best of both worlds when you're working with micro influencers. You get the reach and you get the engagement.
So Caitlin's saying we should try it with a few at a time to start with. Once we master it, we could do that big blast or hire someone like you. Don't worry about hundreds of millions. We only need to reach 4 million in Ireland.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. We have less in New Mexico. So yeah, it's really about being realistic about who you're trying to reach, right? And your audience. And you don't need a Kim Kardashian for 99.999% of your campaigns.
And I was just thinking as well, this is a perfect time for hotels to be doing something like this in Ireland to reach the Irish population. And I'm sure for you as well, I don't know what travel restrictions are like, but here we're going to be holidaying in Ireland this year, right? So all those hotels are going to be competing with each other to get the right customers in the door. So doing something like a digital campaign, or when they know they're going to open, something like what you do with the Instameet could be a fabulous way. I'm getting carried away with hotels. Nobody's from a hotel that's watching. But something when you are reopening, if you're a business that's been closed, when you're reopening, this could be an absolutely fabulous way to get the word out there.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really great for local and regional markets.
I've lost Amy completely, but hopefully she'll be back. She's back. She's back. That's good.
I'm back.
Chris Strubb is watching. I feel like not worthy because Chris is just an amazing live streamer. I'm very excited to have. There's an influencer for you. I'm delighted to have him on the show. Outstanding guests. We know that.
Hi, Chris. Thank you.
And he also says it feels like it's more about who you know than how many you know. Absolutely. So the follower count, like we were saying. Catherine saying great content, great show, learning loads. Thank you, Catherine. I know we had another question from someone. What makes our product or service interesting to an influencer? So flipping it around a little bit more. And this was Barbara's question, who I know she's watching.
That's a good question. I'm sure that if you're in business and you're that there's people that are going to want your product it's about finding the right influencers for it. And so sometimes it's a little bit of a bigger ask if you have something that's either monetarily smaller or it's let's see, you might say, I'm going to give you this thing and ask you to promote it, but I'm also going to pay you to promote it because to lead up to the value of what the influencer is bringing to the table versus what you're going to get out of it. It's just sometimes might be a little bit more of an ask. There's industries that are less glamorous to talk about influencer marketing wise. I'm thinking like banks or like landscaping. So, you never know. But at the same time, it might resonate with different influencers in different ways. And so this is why the community building and finding the right fit really comes into play.
Yeah, that's cool.
And get creative. Get creative with it. That's also this is so outside of the box. They're really we're really just limited by our imagination. So for example, pretty early on to us doing this kind of work, we had an art gallery approach us about doing an Instameet there. And we're like, oh boy, how are we going to make this exciting? Because the component is really to give the influencers access if you're bringing them someplace to something they don't normally have access to, right? So we're like, how do you do that in an art gallery? So we came up with the idea for the influencers to come to the Instameet, shoot the exhibit that was there, to shoot the gallery however they saw it. There's a million different POVs, which is really cool. And then from that, we actually created a photography exhibit. So for a lot of people, this was the first time they had ever seen their photographs printed and hung on a wall for an art exhibit. And so, there was a great response to that. That was a really exciting way to kind of, bring people into a place they could come into normally anyway, but to, put a spin on it, put a twist. It's always about giving the influencers something that they don't normally have access to, or something that's unique in scope. It's really just your chance to get, flex those creative muscles and come up with fun ideas.
That's so much more interesting than just inviting people to an opening and giving them a glass of wine and a couple of olives, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It was really fun. It was a really, really fun series of events.
We're out of questions. We've been going for longer than 30 minutes, which was how much time I'd given you that it was going to take. And I've still loads of questions I'm sure I'm going to want to ask you. So I'm sure if I can forward anything on to you that we get. Tell me more about what you do. Firstly, if somebody in Ireland needs you, can you help them, or are you very New Mexico?
We do have a very established influencer network that is located in New Mexico because as before a year and a half ago, everything we did was, the majority of things we did were in-person events within our local area. But we're open to all sorts of possibilities. Our network is constantly growing. If you would like to become one of our influencers, you can join our influencer network by visiting our website, simplysocialmedianm.com. And so we don't have to do things that are specific to our area. That's one of the great things about, especially Instagram. It's all online. And so we can help train you on how to find influencers. We can do consulting on campaigns, contracts, all sorts of things. And then we also do market research to find influencers for businesses.
Okay, brilliant. So we can use your service. Do you want to give us your website one more time?
Sure. It's simplysocialmedianm.com. And you can find us online at simplysocialnm on all the social platforms.
That's brilliant. And still lots of things coming in. If we have time, just to answer, because Yamashov's asked a few, can we reverse engineer the process and find the right influencer first and then look for a product? So I think they're thinking of being the middleman or the middlewoman in this process.
Yes, that's who we are, right? So we have established a really large regional network, and we have systems for, we know our influencers very well. But we also, have different niches that we have broken them into. And so, when a client comes to us and says, we have X, it's very easy for us to say, oh, we know a very specific group of influencers who fit this bill very well. So yes, building your own network is a really great way to go about this.
Fabulous, fabulous. And that's Laura, I think, by the picture. Hello, Laura. Fantastic show. Great guest. Thank you so much. Thank you for being my first guest on the Maximum Impact Marketers. We will have another show next month. I think I know who it's going to be, but I'm not going to say yet until I have everything confirmed. This has been really helpful for me because more and more of the strategy clients I'm working with are coming to me asking me about influencer marketing. Obviously, because Instagram is so hot right now. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're looking at other things now as well. We're looking at the likes of TikTok are really pushing out the influencer thing. So it's been so helpful. I do want to mention, because I said I wore it so that I could mention it, that I have a brand new Agora Pulse hoodie. So thank you, Agora Pulse. They rebranded. So the old hoodie is over here and this is the new hoodie, and you'll be getting yours soon, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure. And actually, speaking of Agorapulse, they can help you find influencers as well if you tap into the social listening aspects of their program. So like Caitlin said earlier, there's probably brand advocates out there already talking about your product or service. And if you tap into that social listening tool with Agorapulse or others, it really can help you pinpoint and find those influencers without having to do a ton of detective work.
We're all Agorapulse fans here, I think.
We are.
And they're not
super
even
fans.
sponsoring this show. I just wore it because I got it today in the post.
See, we're influencing, right? Like
Exactly.
This is what influencer marketing is. It's our legitimate experience and love of a brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much. Lots of great comments coming in. Lots of very happy people. Delighted to have you on. I know it's the beginning of the day for you, so have a lovely day. I'm going to go and get a cuppa and light the fire.
Sounds great. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Bye-bye.